Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to talk about Canelo Alvarez. I also want to talk about Terence Bud Crawford. And there's also a third figure that I want to talk about, Dmitry Bivol. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the time right now, subscribe to the channel. It literally takes one click. Also, if you could, please hit the thumbs up button. And tell a friend, circulate the videos. Fighting Words is here, and that's that. So, why am I making this video? Because the undisputed champ, Dmitry Bivol, has stated he thinks that Terence Bud Crawford could beat Canelo Alvarez. Why is that important? That's important because he actually faced Canelo Alvarez. That's why it's important. He's felt Canelo Alvarez. He's been in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. He has 12 rounds under his belt with Canelo Alvarez. And he said the main factor was the size difference. You're a much smaller guy coming up 2 weight classes, and this is a much larger guy, or a guy who's been at this larger or heavier weight class for much longer, and he's a lot more acclimated to the weight and the power that's getting thrown around in punches in this weight. And he said also the main thing would just simply be the weight difference and getting used to getting hit by guys at this weight. It's a different type of power. It's a different type of power. At 168, they still have speed. It's not like they're heavyweights or anything and they're slow. No, they still have speed and they have power. So that's 2 factors that Terence Bud Crawford has to factor in. But for Dmitry Bivol, who, is no stranger to the sport, he's got over 268 amateur matches. So he's also our undisputed champ. He knows what he's talking about. If there's one thing on this earth that Dmitry Bivol can educate anybody on, it's boxing. And for him to say, I think skill-wise, Terence Crawford is better or can best Canelo Alvarez. The only thing is the weight. Well, now we've already answered the question with the weight. Now there's only one question left, and that's, how will you respond when you get hit with this type of power? It's one thing, you fight at 147, or you're 140, you go up to 147. Then you go to 154. Okay. No, you couldn't put Madrimov out. So I know what a lot of people are thinking. Listen, if you can't stop a 154 pounder, what are you going to do with a 168 pounder? Number one, styles make fights. Number two, Madrimov is from Eastern New York. Nobody stops those guys, period. So he's not a gauge for what Terence Crawford can do to Canelo Alvarez. They have 2 completely different skill sets, and you can't gauge someone like Madrimov and from where he comes from, and that's important. Where he comes from is important. You can't really gauge that and say, well, if you can't do that to a 54-pounder, what are you going to do with a 68-pounder? Now, in theory, in size, I suppose that makes sense. But when you look at the opponent, it doesn't make that much sense because nobody's putting Eastern European fighters out. Nobody. So it doesn't matter. Nobody's putting those guys out. And Terence Crawford is no different. He didn't put the guy out. Period. So you have Dmitry Bivol. He spends 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez. I think Canelo Alvarez dipped into his bag of tricks during the fight with Dmitry Bivol, and he came up short on all cylinders. Dmitry Bivol won, and I think he won easily. And I've said it since that fight, and I'll continue to say it. I don't think Dmitry Bivol ever stepped on the gas in that fight. I don't feel like he reached a plateau in him rising to the occasion, because I don't think Canelo Alvarez had what it took to force him to rise to the occasion or go to the next level. If you're at an 8, I'm at a 9. You're at a 9, I'm at a 10. I don't think he had to do that. I think, listen, an 8.5 was good enough to win. I'm going to do an 8.5. That's what I really believe. When I look at that fight, that's the only thing that goes through my head. It's just he had more in him, but he didn't feel the need to dip into his reserves to go get it. He knew he had won. So if he's saying that Terence Crawford can beat Canelo Alvarez, that only confirms what I've already believed. That only confirms some of the things that I've already said in previous videos. Terence Bud Crawford definitely can, because most of the people who are saying that he can't beat Canelo Alvarez, they're only factoring in two things. Canelo hits hard, Canelo's bigger. Well, we got to take the size thing away now. Size is gone. Canelo Alvarez is not the biggest person in the world, first and foremost. Just if we're comparing size, he's not the biggest guy in the world. But that is true that he has been fighting at 168. That is very much so true. So, you know, he hasn't been 154 in years. So that is true. But Terence Crawford is no dummy. I mean, he's going to properly prepare. He's the type of guy who locks in. He's the type of guy who locks himself away to prepare. And I feel like this is the biggest fight of his life. And I think it's a bigger fight than the fight that he had with Errol Spence. I think the fight with Errol Spence was big because it was just years in the building. I think this is big because there's a large majority, I'll probably say the majority of people don't believe he can beat Canelo Alvarez. But like I said before, Bud Crawford fights with a chip on his shoulder. And nobody ever thinks Bud's going to win. Nobody thought he was going to beat Errol Spence. Nobody ever thinks that Bud's going to win. Like, nobody ever thinks he's going to win. So it's not like he's in foreign territory where, you know, like the masses are on his side. They're not. And at this moment, they're not. You know, there are still the naysayers who say, is Bud really that good? There are still the naysayers who say, I think Bud still has a questionable chin. There are still the naysayers. Anybody who has two hands can get the job done. It doesn't take a lot. It literally takes one punch. You hit him in the right place, and it's good night. Well, that being said, I think listening to Dmitry Bivol, Terence Crawford has what it takes to take out Canelo Alvarez. I don't think it's ever a question if Canelo Alvarez has what it takes to take out Terence Crawford. The question has always been, does Terence Crawford has what it takes to take out Canelo Alvarez? That's the reason why this video isn't mixed in with Canelo being able to beat Terence Crawford. Because the question has never been, can Canelo beat Terence Crawford? Yeah, he definitely possesses the skill to do so. He definitely hits hard enough to do so. So yeah, you know, you're looking at somebody in Canelo Alvarez who's, you know, I think he's been rocked maybe twice in his career that I've seen. Got an amazing chin, never been off his feet. You know, he'll keep pressing. You know, he won't be defeated. You know, he'll try and try and try. You know, he knows Canelo Alvarez also knows how to step on the gas. So I don't want to make it seem like it's a one-sided video, but I think the overall question is for this fight is, can Terence Crawford beat Canelo Alvarez? It's not reverse. It's not, can Canelo Alvarez beat Terence Crawford? I don't think anybody, or massively, I don't think anybody is thinking that. I think it's, well, Bud's a much smaller guy. Bud came from a much smaller weight class. Yeah, that's true. Bud's never been hit by guys this big with small gloves. That is also true. That I can't dispute any of that. I can just go with the guy who fought Canelo. That's what I can do. And, you know, Dmitry Bivol said, you know, Terence Crawford's one of my favorite fighters. I like the things he does. I like how he thinks. I like how he moves, his precision, his timing. Like, he understands the sport of boxing. He knows how to adjust. And I think there's a lot of things that Terence Crawford does that is going to give Canelo Alvarez big problems. I've said it since day one. I think the number one thing that Terence Crawford does that's going to give Canelo big problems is his ability to manhandle, wrestle, put underhooks, shift people, and then get out the back door. We seen it in the fight with Sean Porter. Sean Porter thought all I have to do is get him in the corner. Wrong. I'm not going to stay in the corner. And I know how to tie you up. And I know how to shift your body weight. Terence Crawford used to wrestle. I still think to this day that is the secret weapon for Canelo Alvarez. Because we all know what Canelo Alvarez is going to do. He's going to press and he's going to cut off the ring. We all know what he's going to do. He's going to press, he's going to cut off the ring, he's going to dip low, and he's going to throw some overhands. We all know what he's going to do. He's also going to throw those shovel hooks and with a solid body attack. I know what Canelo is going to do. The problem is, Bud is a pretty unpredictable guy. He knows how to adjust. He knows how to read the situation. He knows how to read the landscape. And when you have a guy like Dmitry Bivol, somebody who is a skilled student of the game, and since he's a undisputed champ, I'm going to say a master of the game. If he's saying that Bud Crawford has the skill to beat him, I'm going to have to second that. I'm going to have to trust the undisputed champion. I'm going to have to trust the guy who gave Canelo a L. If he says he knows he has or possesses what it takes to beat him, I'm going to second that. I'm absolutely going to second that. So I am in full and total agreement with Dmitry Bivol when he says that Terence Crawford has what it takes to beat Canelo Alvarez. Drop your thoughts down below.